If you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave. Okay. When I was in college, I worked for a mobile carrier in a mall. For a young person, it was great money. I was the assistant manager, which was a fancy way of saying I was in charge of most of the store paperwork. One morning, I opened by myself and a guy approached me asking for a specific phone and kept balking at the price, asking if I could cut him a deal though. I was confident we were by far the cheapest in the area, so I told him if you bring me a better deal, I'll beat it. The guy does another lap, talks to other stores, and comes back. Come on, there is nothing you can do? Can I just get a case? I smile and say, sorry, that's the best I can do today, but can I get your number in case we get a sale that brings the price down? His entire demeanor changed and he handed me paperwork out of his bag and showed me his ID. He was from corporate LP, loss prevention. Apparently my store ranked top in the state for excessive discounts and excessive waste. He then hands me a document showing all of my friends and family discounts. So I flipped open my phone and showed him all the names on the list are in my phone, thus our friends and family. He thanks me and says he'll stick around to talk to my boss and one other team member. Since smartphones weren't really a big thing at the time, the LP guy starts talking to me about my job, and I ask him a little more about what exactly flagged our store. Turns out the other two people he wanted to talk to had more than 30% of their transactions marked with that discount code and our store seemed to lose lots of inventory. Store practice was that if you open an accessory and it was damaged in shipping, you just throw it away and grab another one. Turns out there is a process you need to follow. He showed me the form and said you really should be between X and X a month to be considered average. He then interviews my boss and coworker who couldn't prove that their discounts were accurate and they were let off with a stern warning. From then on, I took on the responsibility of tracking inventory and warning the team when we were getting close to the monthly limit. Like a miracle, cases stopped breaking for the rest of the month with these announcements. I opened by myself again one morning. An older gentleman approaches me and starts screaming at me about being a heartless bastard and asking how the hell can you do this to people? I look at him puzzled. Sir, I have no idea who you are, so you can't possibly be mad at me specifically. Let's go sit over there and have a quick chat. As soon as we sit down I look at him and he starts crying and shaking. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna lose my house. He goes on to tell me his son had gotten 10 free phones from my store and the monthly bill was roughly $800 plus tax. Sir, if your son started an account with us, there is nothing I can do without him coming to the store. The dad shows me a photo in his wallet and explains that his son lives in a home because he's too old to take care of him. He's visibly disabled. He was already barely getting by paying for his house plus his son to be taken care of. My heart dropped as I figured out what had happened. My coworker had sold the phones to his son while they were on a mall outing with his group home. Furious, I went back to the store and voided the entire order. I instruct the dad to bring me every phone he can find. Anything not in the store that day would be marked as stolen. I write up the inventory report and mark all of those phones stolen for the time being. Coworker comes in and I say, don't bother clocking in. I saw your order from last night. Just know that it's voided. If you pull anything like that again I'll make sure you're fired. Take the rest of the weekend off. He argues for a moment, but leaves. 25 minutes later my boss shows up saying he heard what happened. I show him all of the paperwork and explain what I did to solve it. Irritated, he looks at me and says something like you can't do that right? He then argues with me that I had no right to void the order and the contract was the contract. Confused and angry, I say look, I will not sit by and allow people to be taken advantage of like that. To which he replies, if you don't like the way we do things here, you can leave. Shocked, I walk back into the store where he tells me he is taking care of all of the paperwork to fix my mess. Quietly I rip up my inventory report with a smile and tell him I'm leaving for the day. I called a friend who said, why don't you just get an IT job? He then calls a recruiter and sets up an interview for the next morning. Boss's little push gave me the drive to just go for it. I nailed the interview and got the job. My now ex-boss texted me shortly after and said hey op, you're late. To which I replied, no, I don't like the way you do things there. Silence. Both the boss and the coworker were fired for theft. You see, with the unexplained missing phones and with no one watching inventory, LP quickly took interest in the store again. Turns out the broken cases were actually team members giving away inventory to close sales. So when I was there balancing inventory and giving warnings, it was letting them know just how much they could steal and get away with it. Without me there they just did whatever the heck they wanted. From what I hear, they were escorted out by security and all.